Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to a brand new video. Today we got some interesting stuff to talk about. We're talking about debt collectors and whether or not you should pay them or try to come to an agreement in order to get your debts settled so that they can come off your credit reports. But another problem that we always have is the charge-off accounts. So in today's video, I want to break you on some of the structures that you can leverage and use in terms of understanding the reference points of how to deal with a debt collector first and foremost. But another point is what you can do when you have to deal with a charge-off account. And what if that charge-off account goes and gets sold off to multiple debt collection agencies, right? What if that charge-off account gets sold off to creating more negative debt and credit reporting infrastructure on your reports, which ultimately causes your credit score to go down, and ultimately you can't do anything about that. So in today's video, I want to give you some infrastructure, some idea on what you need to understand when it comes to debt collectors. But more importantly, the elements of what a debt collector really needs to understand when it comes to collecting the debt, when it comes to reporting the debt, when it comes to selling it to another debt collection agency. These are some of the critical points that we really need to get familiarized around, because these are the elements that are going to cause our credit to go down. And if we don't know how to deal with that, what's going to happen is we're going to be left behind. Our scores are going to stay the same, and we're not going to be able to move to the destination that we always want to move to. So for this reason, this lesson today is going to help you quite a bit. So let's get started on today's video. So when it comes to debt collectors, there's a couple of things that we really need to familiarize ourselves with. And the element here is a debt collector has really three options. The first is they try to deal with you and you accept the terms of what they're asking you to pay. In that case, they're allowed to continuously report in your credit reports until such time the complete payment is done. In addition to that, because you paid them off doesn't necessarily mean that the negative item will come off your credit report. It will just say the debt has been paid in full. Another point here is that the second option, which is you try to negotiate with them, but they continuously report negatively on your credit reports, and you're not coming to a conclusion in reference to creating a resolution. And that resolution can be where you get them off your credit reports, or you try a form or structure in which you can negotiate with them. And unfortunately, a lot of times, neither of those situations are successful. And the third and final option, obviously, is they cease and desist. They stop collecting the debt. They stop reporting the debt. They stop selling the debt. And therefore, ultimately, you're victorious. And therefore, you get those boosts in your credit reports and the scores go up. So you don't have to worry about the headaches and non-stop communications from those debt collectors. So ideally, my target for you guys today is to get you to the third element. It's to get you to destination number 3, where you don't have to worry about these negative debts and how they impact your credit reports. So the first thing we need to understand and address is, should you stop paying a debt collector? Should you even pay them at all? Should you even communicate in reference to any payment arrangements with your debt collectors? And the answer is yes, you should stop, but there's strategy behind that. See, a lot of people say, well, don't touch a communication with the debt collector. Don't pick up the phone. Don't do anything that would enable them to agree that you're going to pay them or somehow trick you into an agreement of some sort. You don't have to worry about all these things because those things are not necessarily important. What's important here is that you know how to communicate with them, because that's the element that's going to get you to the results of number 3, which is obviously them getting off your credit reports. They stop collecting and they stop selling the debt. To get to number 3, you need to understand how to perfect the level of communication. There's a couple of elements when it comes to debt collectors that you really need to understand. The first and foremost is the debt that they're attempting to collect, is it very old? And the reason I say that is because there's something called the statute of limitations. You guys have to familiarize yourself with that. What a statute of limitation really is the element in which a debt collector can no longer collect from you because they passed a certain threshold, which enabled them or allowed them by law to be able to collect within that time limit. Most states usually have a debt collector statute of limitation of up to 4 years, sometimes 5 or 6 years, depending on the state. It's really easy to search that up. And just simply go to google.com, search your state plus statute of limitation debt collections. It'll give you the answer you're looking for. And typically, you can find out in a very quick, short few seconds in reference to whether or not they're actually beyond the statute of limitations. I actually left a link in the description for you so you can go ahead and check out a resource to help you shortcut that research process. So let's start with that level of communication. Number 1, are they past the statute of limitation? This is something that you understand or need to understand, because if they are, then they basically simply cannot collect. But there's a trick to it too. See, there's a lot of points that we need to talk about when it comes to reporting a negative item on your credit report, specifically if it's from a debt collector. The good one is, when a negative item is reported from a debt collection side, they have to validate the debt, right? So validation can be many different forms. A validation is whether they sent you a bill or medical statement, whatever the case. Some of the people say, well, that's not considered validation. In their terms, it is. In credit reporting standards, sure it is. But it's not a perspective of validation. The perspective of validation we have to understand is the right to collect. That's the exercise that we're going to implement. It's not necessarily whether the debt is yours. It's not necessarily whether the debt belongs to somebody else. But it's the right to collect. If they were continuing collecting without validating, without ensuring that you have agreed to something, then that's failure to comply. And therefore, they cannot continue collection activities. But here's the tricky part. If they continue collection activity, it's actually illegal. But in addition to that, if they continue reporting, which is by law considered a collection activity, by the way, that's illegal. So if you tell them they pass the statute of limitation, they can no longer collect. Reporting is a collection activity. They can no longer report. You start to see the magic. The other thing is, if you tell them to cease and desist and they fail to validate the debt, and you explain to them, I want you to cease and desist all communication and refuse to pay any alleged debt that you say I owe because you failed to provide valid proof and certifiable, truthful statement of the exact accounting of the debt that you said I owe, and therefore you forfeit your right to collect this, and this is my agreement with you, and this is an affidavit I've prepared that I'm taking this very seriously. At that point, you also put a statement in the affidavit stating that, number one, you can no longer collect from this moment on. And number two, reporting is a collection activity. So if you continue reporting, you will be subject to punitive, statutory, and of course a lawsuit when it comes to damages. In addition to financial damages caused to me because my creditors or financial institutions refused to give me what I'm entitled to because of your negative accounting reporting, which is in fact a collection activity. So that's something that you need to learn. So communication is essential. Don't pay debt collectors is a statement. Not to pay collectors in a very strategic, communicative aspect is a strategy. And that's what we need to work with. So that's the second point I want you to understand. And the third and final point, which I want to summarize this whole debt collection practices situation, to get to our third point where they stop collecting, they stop reporting, and they stop selling the debt, is to be very strong about their language. Is to be very tactical about your approach of communication, the strategy and the logistics that you've deployed and how you've deployed them, because that's what's going to get you the results that you're looking for. So let's talk about some of that. Number one, are you sending certified mail to these debt collectors? And don't just send it to the debt collectors. Be sure to include a copy of all the letters and or documents you're sending to a debt collector to the credit reporting agencies as well. Take an extra step to do that, because what happens is you're ensuring communication on both sides. Let's assume that you go for a lawsuit and you were to file a lawsuit against these debt collection agencies. And let's say you were to go to court and you have to proof up every single documentation and possible efforts that you've gone through to demonstrate that you've done your very best so that they can stop doing the negative stuff. But if you don't have certified mail, proof, affidavits, sworn notarized documents, all sorts of things like that, it's not really going to help your situation, because that's the proof. Proof is in the pudding. So if you can bring it to court in that instance, there's actually a legitimate lawsuit that you can win. But if you don't have all these type of things and you're just going based on a claim of stop communicating and I'm not going to pay you, there's really no authenticity and no weight to the substance that you're going to go ahead and sue them with. So you have to be very careful and tactical about how you do this. So to summarize, to stop paying debt collectors, to be tactical in your communication, you have to express your interest in pursuing a lawsuit if they fail to comply. You have to explain to them that they have to show you demonstrated evidence, contractual document that gives them the right to collect alleged debt. You have to communicate with them that they have to cease and desist communication, in addition to collection activity, including credit reporting, which consists of a collection activity. In addition to that, you have to tell them that you can no longer sell this debt off to other third-party collection agency because of your failure, and if you do so, you will be subject to fines on their behalf in addition to yourself for your negligence, and willful negligence at that. So these are some of the elements that we have to really be comfortable around and work with. Now, you might be asking me, what about charge-offs? So the simple truth about charge-offs is you have to look at the credit reporting structure of a charge-off and challenge it based on the way they're not reporting accurately. And the reason I say that, most charge-offs have a lot of data that's spread out across all three bureaus that is non-congruent and not similar to one another. And when it comes to credit reporting, a creditor only has one software. They can't submit 3 different agencies, 3 different softwares, because that's not compliance. That's not mandatory requirement of reporting. So if they're using one software, why did the information across all 3 always come to be very different? Why is it that information across all 3 are never linear or congruent with one another? And that's one of those things that we really have to get comfortable around in terms of the idea and how we communicate with the creditors and the credit bureaus at the same time. So when it comes to charge-off, analyze the credit reporting items, look at the information on all 3, look at some of the deficiencies and inaccuracies across all 3, Look at the information that's spread out across all three and what elements are not matching or mixing, and therefore use that information to your advantage, put it in a document, send it off, and explain to them why is this information not proper, and go through a line of questioning that enables you to go ahead and get the answers from them for non-compliance and FCRA breach of violations. So these are some of the things that you have to get comfortable around when it comes to charge-offs. So don't pay debt collectors, and let's talk about charge-offs. Today's video, I just wanted to go ahead and give you guys all this information that you have the right tools and infrastructure at your disposal to get the best type of results possible. So I hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, don't forget to destroy that thumbs up button. It'll help me get the distribution on YouTube and help other individuals find this video so that they can learn as much as you did today. If you really enjoyed the video, don't forget that we have an Insiders member for YouTube membership. The information inside the contents of the YouTube membership is a lot more high-end. You get a lot more content, information, education, in addition to 2 private live streams a month so you can participate and join in the discussions. And don't forget, if you want to level up your knowledge in terms of personal credit, go ahead and join the Ultimate Personal Credit Mastery 3.0. Brand new update with a lot of new content in there in addition to industry-leading tactics that'll help you get those negative items off your credit reports. If you're interested in that, the link is in the description of this video. And with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. This is definitely your guide and mentor, Ali Tarafdar. Catch you guys on the next one. Bye for now.